Hello. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you very much. My name is Nauta. I'm currently working as an enterprise architect for the Flemish government. And before that, I was the lead architect of the EIRA, the European Interoperability Reference Architecture, for a period of 2 years. And I'm here to explain how I bring these two experiences together with a question on why we use the EIRA as our reference architecture at the Flemish government. First, a bit of context. The Kruispunt Vlaanderen, it's a Dutch name. We will call it the Flanders Crossroad for the sake of this presentation. There's a bit of history. There were some problematic areas we discovered, and we said, okay, we need to take action. Action leading to a lot of thoughts, to a vision, and to an ecosystem, the Kruispunt Vlaanderen, which I will explain briefly to work towards our final question. So the problems were that the Flanders public services were scattered. There were a lot of different administrations having different procedures, different policies, and the citizens did not really know where to go to at which moment. There was no unified platform. So there were two legislative texts, I will not go into detail, they're here for reference, that were enablers to start working on it and to provide a single integration, a service integration, a single point to the Belgian citizens. At that moment, there were two very big projects going on, and they are very important for our current context in which I'm working. The first one is Magda. It is e-government services, very much related to personal data, organizational data, so a lot of GDPR compliance there. And the other one is what we call, under an umbrella term, geo-services. Geo-services is everything ISA² related, a lot of open data, and we want to merge those two together. And as a small side note, our team from the Geo Service, they were also the host for the ISA² Conference 2 months ago in Antwerp. So, no real single point for the citizens, different platforms, not really working together. We came up with an ecosystem. This ecosystem does not come up like that. We start with a vision. So, the vision of the Kruispunt Vlaanderen, the Flanders Crossroad. There are a few important keywords in there. It needs to be scalable, not only from a technical point of view, which is often more easily, but also organizational point of view. Of course, when we're talking about personal information, it needs to be safe and secure. That's almost a no-brainer, but very important for the sake of this topic, integration of information and interoperability. And of course, we need to have an added value for our users, the Flemish citizens mostly. We are very much aligned to the EIF already. At Flanders, we have our Oslo standards. That's the open standards for linked organizations. Those are core vocabularies. They extend the ISA² core vocabularies. And they used to be in Dutch only, and now to become more interoperable, we're also translating them to English as we speak. When we're talking about ecosystem, when we're talking about integration of information, interoperability, there are new initiatives going on. We're talking with BOSA on federal level. We're talking about the Brussels region, and pretty soon we will open up discussions with the Walloon region as well. Because Belgium is a bit like mini Europe. We have different regions, we have different languages, we have different governance, borders. We might even say that we have different subcultures. So, when we're talking about different projects, different programs not really working together, and now we come up with an ecosystem, we need to have a shift. A shift from silos to a more ecosystem-oriented way of working. And there are quite a few opportunities in there, where we first were only giving out data. Now we are trying to add more value to the citizens. At this moment, we are already introducing business rule engines, we are introducing data virtualizations, technical platforms. And in the future, we are looking to blockchain, we are looking to smart cities, IoT, big data, and a bit further even to artificial intelligence. But all this in the light of an ecosystem where we invite other regions and levels to cooperate. So interoperability is important. It is not a question for us, it is part of the answer. Which leads us to another question. Why would we use a reference architecture to start with? What you see here is the cover of a book, the map of a nation, and besides it's a painting. The painting describes the final moment, or finally, the redcoats were able to capture the Scottish rebels. And I say finally because it's taken them 2 months. The Scottish, led by a crippled 80-year-old man called Lord Lovat, was able to evade them all the time because they knew the highlands like the back of their pockets. And the redcoats, well, they realized that they did not have good maps. They did not really know where they were, they did not really know where they were going to, nor how to get there. And for the geographical people amongst us, this event is actually one of the triggers that led to the creation of the Ordnance Survey, which is the very first National Geographic Institute in the world. But okay, so how do we go from not having really a map, not knowing where you are, where you want to go, to architecture? Well, on architecture, of course, you also want to know where you are. You have your landscape, what you call an as-is situation. You have a future state where you want to go to, which we often call it to be, and you have your transition period for there, a roadmap. Your landscape, a cartography, the link with maps is easily made. But then, there are many ways to draw maps, architectural maps. There are different languages, different tools. And here, I would like to stress the importance of reference architecture. Reference architecture provides a common language for different subsets of problems. It provides structure, it provides templates. As such, it accelerates delivery. It increases communication cross-border, and as such, we are better able to serve the citizens. I am absolutely convinced that if you use a reference architecture, you are able to break down silos, you will increase communication, and you will increase your enterprise architecture maturity. Sorry. Then, why do we use the EIRA as a reference architecture? There are three important words from our vision. That is ecosystem, integration, and interoperability. Ecosystem, of course, working all together. Integration, multiple data sources combined. Interoperability, obviously. And to the best of my knowledge, the EIRA is the only up-to-date reference architecture that addresses these problems from a legal, from an organizational, from a semantic, and from a technical point of view. There are some national reference architectures, but they are often not cross-border. What does the EIRA offer us? Well, the EIRA is the reference architecture of the EIF. It is based on Archimate, a common language often used in enterprise architecture. It offers a service-oriented architecture style. It offers a controlled vocabulary, meaning that the architecture building blocks in the EIRA, they are well described. There's no longer a need to discuss, well, what exactly do you mean with it? The EIRA gives an answer. And also it's a starting point. The EIRA guides you through your process of telling how your architecture works. And at the same time also when you model, you can use the storytelling point to start modeling. The EIRA also has a CAR tool, a cartography tool, which basically allows you to map different solutions to the EIRA. When you have a few solutions, it's not that important, but once the number of solutions starts to grow, you want to control them, and you want to even be able to query them. There's a lot of rich information in there. And I would like to give a few examples. Imagine that you're building a new solution, and you would like to have an identity management solution. Well, what do? Build from scratch, or perhaps look in a cartography and see which solutions are already there, which you might reuse. If you are the owner of a popular identity management solution, maybe, well, if you want to change something, you want to know which solutions are actually using your identity management, so you can do impact analysis. Finally, if you're from a governance point of view, if you want to look how many identity management solutions are there, well, you can query and say, well, maybe there are too many. Maybe you can rationalize, bring them together, because each different solution has a different maintenance cycle, additional cost, of course. I'm approaching the end of my presentation, which is already here, the conclusion. Sorry about that. There is an important note that I would like to make. The EIRA is not a holistic enterprise architecture framework. It is holistic from interoperability point of view, but if you would like to add something like governance, COBIT, if you want to add ITSM, ITIL, or security, the ISO standards, then you need to extend the EIRA and use other frameworks as well. Time is running out, so I talked about improving communication, about traceability, impact assessment. I've talked about reuse, finding solutions in the CAR tool. But there's one key point that I would really like to give, is that the EIRA is the reference architecture of the EIF. And if we are all aligned to the EIF, all using the principles and recommendations, then by definition we become more interoperable. And the EIRA is just an excellent tool to help you do that. Thank you.